Say hi, Misha. Misha. What's going on, buddy? Finlay-YT. Welcome back to another YouTube live stream. And today, I just got back from the shops to have some McDonald's for like a late lunch slash snack. And now I'm back home and we're going to be reacting to some more scary stories. Because it's Halloween's right around the corner. So consider this like a part 2 from earlier. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. And feel free to comment down below and press the bell notification so you never miss any of my videos. And without further ado, let's get to it. Lego. And here's my cat. He's my little cat, Misha. He's a boy. Stay. 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 Misha.
Can I talk?
Alright, chill. Let's listen to some more scary stories.
Halloween used to be one of my favorite holidays. Now I kind of just enjoy it when I have a decent party to go to. In 2018, when I was a senior in college, my friend Tracy's sorority was going to be throwing a big Halloween party at the sorority house. She said I could bring one friend since they didn't want too many outsiders at the party. So I invited my best friend Cody. We're very last-minute people when it comes to Halloween costumes. The party was that night and we didn't have anything. Cody was working late, so he'd have to meet me right before the party. So he asked me to get a costume for him, and he'd just Venmo me the money. I ran to the nearby Spirit Halloween store that opened up like 5 minutes from my house. I was just shotgunning it. I picked a Where's Waldo costume for myself and a Superman costume for Cody. Both two of the cheaper costumes they had. Everything was normal until I got to the cashier. I was on the phone with Cody, telling him about the costume I got him and giving him details about the party. I told him which sorority it was, that Tracy got us the invite, Gave him the address, and then he convinced me to pick him up instead of us just meeting, stuff like that. All of this was said as the cashier was watching me. He was some guy who was decently older than me, but because of his receding hairline, I couldn't put a gauge on it as to whether he was in his 30s or low 40s. He wore glasses, though, and had a skinny-ish build and an awkward presence. As he rang up the two costumes, he had a comment something along the lines of, "Sounds like you have a fun party tonight, huh?" I chuckled and said, "Yeah." Then he started asking more details, like if it's open invite, and had a comment about there being lots of girls. I said it's closed invite and that I barely got an invite. He said it's all good. Then he shook my hand and introduced himself as Mike, so I did the same and told him my name was Sean, and I left. It was weird. Fast forward to later that night. I picked up Cody and we arrived to the party around 10 p.m. It sounded loud inside, and there were multiple groups of people entering the house before us. At the door, a girl asked us who we knew there, and I told her Tracy. She let us in, and we were in this huge living room area. Music blasting, all the lights dimmed low, Halloween decorations everywhere. And to top it off, people with red cups full of booze crowding the place. We saw Tracy and hung around her for a while. We played beer pong and other drinking games. It was a very legit party. But then, at some point, there was a commotion by the front door area. Cody, Tracy, and I, and a few others walked over, and the girl at the door started calling out, "Where's Tracy?" She came forward, and the girl asked, "Who is Sean?" I said, "I am." Then she asked me who that creepy guy we invited was. I was confused and said, "Who?" She described some older-looking man in a cowboy costume with a fake mustache. He apparently inappropriately touched one of the girls, trying to get her into a separate room, and she screamed for help. Then he took off with something in his pocket. None of the guys chased after him or anything. Immediately, I thought of the cashier from Spirit Halloween. I told them about it, and everyone got even more creeped out. The party went on, but they were a lot more cautious about who they were letting in. They even considered calling the cops for a second. That whole thing really killed my vibe, and we didn't stay much longer after that. In total, we were probably at the party for a couple hours at most. We left a little past midnight, I think. I didn't drink much. As I started my car, the car parked like 2 cars behind us also turned on, and as I drove in the direction of Cody's house, the car started to follow. Cody and I were sure it had to be him after it made 4 of the same turns, so I pulled to the side of the road, egging him on to pull over, but the car just stopped for a few seconds, then basically floored it past us. We didn't get a good look at who was inside, but I'm still positive it was him. After dropping off Cody down the block from his house, just being cautious, I was staying very aware of my surroundings, and because of that, I noticed a car in the near distance with its lights off, tailing me. It looked like the same car. I got to a main road, once again pulled over, and waited. The car once again waited, and then a few seconds later, turned on its lights and floored it in the far left lane, passing me. I was obviously shook, and drove home as fast as I could while I was sure I wasn't being followed. I called that Spirit Halloween location the next day and reported the cashier. They thanked me for the information, but I never went back there, so I wouldn't know if he was fired or anything. Looking back, I wonder if I could have and should have pressed charges. Regardless, I have no idea what he could have possibly wanted from me. But either way, I'm happy he didn't find out where I live. We always... Halloween of 2019 was the most terrifying night of my life. I live in Australia. Because we don't celebrate Halloween as enthusiastically, we don't get as many trick-or-treaters, around 5 or 6 people at most. I am personally a huge fan of Halloween, though, to the dismay of my parents who would prefer not to acknowledge it. Obviously, that leaves me in charge of putting up decorations and handing out candy. This particular year, Halloween fell on a school night, and the storm began just after 6 o'clock, which unfortunately meant my efforts preparing the decorations had pretty much gone to waste. Ignoring my better judgment, I still waited for trick-or-treaters in the living room and watched The Conjuring to pass the time. Around an hour and a half later, I got a message from my friend M on our group chat, asking if anyone would like to mess around and go trick-or-treating. At first I was confused. We hadn't gone trick-or-treating in over 5 years, but I decided it would make the night more enjoyable as nobody was knocking on the door anyway. My other friends, who I'll call S, C, and H, all agreed and asked M where we should meet up. M quickly replied he couldn't make it, which was strange because he was the one who offered to go trick-or-treating, but he suggested a house which has lots of candy. Me, S, C, and H all arrived at the house within half an hour. A large table with a pumpkin bowl filled with lollipops stood at the front porch, and after checking the windows to make sure we weren't being watched, we emptied the bowl between us, only leaving a few to avoid suspicion. As we turned around to leave, we were greeted by two men dressed as clowns approaching us up the driveway. They had huge painted smiles and tilted heads. I could tell we were all creeped out, and one of my friends screamed as they started bolting towards us, one squeaking its rubber nose as they chased. After running for what felt like an eternity, we finally lost them. We decided to go to M's house so we could discuss what just happened in a safe area. However, when M answered the door, he burst into laughter. "What the hell are you guys doing?" he said, confused. "You told us to go trick-or-treating. Can you just let us inside?" S replied. After sitting down on M's couch, we all soon realized M had lost his phone earlier that day, and a stranger had suggested the idea of going to that house, presumably some sort of trap for the clowns. After another half hour, I cautiously made it home by 9:30, finished my movie, and went outside to collect the candy bowl I set up. I was shocked to see the bowl was completely empty. However, my stomach turned when I saw a clown nose was now laying inside of it. I told my parents everything that happened, and showed them the clown nose that had been left at our house. They assured me it was just some Halloween prank. I woke up around 1 a.m. to noises coming from my bedroom window, like rocks hitting the glass. Although I was scared half to death, my curiosity got the better of me. I eventually opened the blinds. My Halloween decorations were destroyed and littered the ground below. I stared motionless in complete shock until a lollipop was thrown at the window,
Hey,
breaking my
77
trance.
welcome to the live stream.
I looked up and saw them, the two clowns
Please
perched
don't
upon
leave.
the neighbor's roof, looking down at me. I screamed and ran away towards my parents' room. I'll skip the details that followed, but the police were called and the clowns were not found. The
Thanks.
officers informed us they would check out the house my friends and I trick-or-treated at,
Thanks.
and they left in about half an hour. The following morning, we were told the house was abandoned, and M's phone was discovered inside. That day at school, I learned M, S, C, and H all had creepy experiences during the night as well. I'm not sure if the clowns followed us home or they somehow tracked us through M's phone. All I know is that Halloween is only a few weeks away, and I am completely terrified they'll return. It was a stormy Halloween night. I was with my three friends John, Mary, and Keenan. Since we didn't have any real plans and were kind of just hanging around, I decided to grab the Ouija board from my closet. All my friends were down to try it. I wanted to be funny, but also set the mood, so I got 3 candles, lit them, and turned off all the lights. The 4 of us sat at the table with our hands on the planchette. We started off by saying, "Is anyone there?" Of course, the planchette started to move, and we all started to laugh. It went from Y to E to S, spelling yes. John and I began asking the really stupid, goofy questions, like, "Will you haunt Mary?" And she kept begging us to stop. But as the planchette moved to once again spell out the word yes, we all erupted into laughter. To be honest, I didn't even contribute to moving the piece around the board. I just assumed John and Keenan were messing around for the most part. Then, without anyone asking a question, the planchette started moving to spell the words "I'm inside the house." More laughs, until there was a huge, very obvious thump sound from directly upstairs, like right over our heads. It most closely resembled a boot stomping on the floor. All of us jumped. Mary started screaming and freaking out. John, Keenan, and I didn't know whether to laugh or be freaked out. My parents weren't home. No one was except for me. We don't have any pets. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. We looked at each other. Then I went to look through the peephole. I opened the door. It was a dad and his young son trick-or-treating under an umbrella. I opened the door and handed the kids some candies. But once I shut the door, it was back to the current reality of the situation, which was figuring out what the hell that sound was. I convinced all three of them to come upstairs with me just to check. We all got to the upstairs hallway. All that was on was a night light plugged into the floor outlet. We were halfway through the hallway, approaching my parents' bedroom, which was the room directly above the table we were sitting at, where we heard the noise. That's when we all heard the same thing. It was this voice of a girl. What was said, none of us could hear it, but all four of us agreed we heard the voice of a girl in my parents' room, followed by the sound of something being dropped on the floor. Mary and Keenan ran down the stairs, freaked out, but not making a peep. John and I, however, approached the door. I opened it quietly and pushed it open slowly. I looked into the dark room, and I saw something tall standing in the far corner of the room. I slammed the door shut, and we ran down the stairs. We stayed in the living room and flicked on the lights, and then noticed one of the candles by the Ouija board was blown out. I called the cops, and a few minutes later, when an officer arrived, I asked him to check my parents' bedroom. I led him up the stairs and pointed at the door. He knocked on it and announced police, then opened the door quickly and flicked on the light. He checked the closet, under the bed, nothing. That's when we followed and entered the room as well, and I could confirm no one was in there. While we were at it, we checked every single bedroom and bathroom up there. There was not a single possible place anybody could be hiding. After the police officer left, we threw the Ouija board in the neighbor's garbage, and we all sat under the awning in my backyard, listening to the storm in silence until my parents returned. After telling the story to my parents together, eventually my friends left. My parents seemed to believe us, but what could they really do? I didn't sleep too well that night, and obviously I have no plans of using a Ouija board ever again.
Hi, Ada. Welcome to the
My
live
group of
stream.
friends and I went to a local county haunted house attraction. It was by the edge of town. It opened every October of every year. It sat right by the woods appropriately and had 3 attractions.
If you read my the title of the live stream that says more, it says if you didn't read the title of my live stream, it says that I'm reacted to more Halloween scary stories with my subscribers, and which I'm doing right now, because Halloween's right around the corner.
Maze, and a haunted trail
Because Halloween's right around the corner.
Through the woods. I guess I'll name my friends now. Rod, James, and Bud. That's not his real name, that's just his nickname. We started with the haunted house, which was decently high quality and had a few good scares. Then we made our way to the corn maze. It started out kind of slow, just a lot of turns through the corn we'd have to make. But then the scary antics began. A guy dressed as a freaky scarecrow man emerged from the corn and screamed at us, causing us to scream as well. He started to chase after us, and we ran. I was in the back, of course, and the scarecrow was right behind me. Even knowing it's just a paid actor, you have this innate fear of something chasing after you, where you just feel like you have to run away. Somehow, through the thrill of running away through the corn, I lost all of my friends. It seemed like all of us ran in different directions. I lost the scarecrow man, though, and got back to the trail between the crops.
Hey, Ada, check this out.
This is where the nightmare began. I called and yelled and screamed for my friends as I made wrong turn after wrong turn. They never called back. In fact, it seemed there were no other visitors in sight. I had to finish the maze by myself. What choice did I have? I walked and walked for what felt like 20 minutes, and I heard bustling in the corn in front of me. I slowed my pace and kind of tiptoed past the noise, but it was pointless. Something reached out from the corn and grabbed my wrist and squeezed it tight. I actually cried out in pain and yelled, "Stop, you're hurting me." I was actually in shock how hard this paid actor was squeezing my wrist. Then he tried pulling me into the crops. I didn't see who it was. I just saw his hand and arm, covered by a black coat sleeve and black glove. I yanked myself out from the grip and backed away as the actor came out for the crops into the path. He was wearing a heavy winter coat, black jeans, and a blank black face mask. I didn't know what the costume was supposed to be, but I literally yelled, "Go fuck yourself, you actually heard me." He started running at me, and naturally I turned and ran as fast as I could through the corn to lose him. I yelled back, "I'm reporting you," and I quickly lost him. After 5 minutes of running straight through the corn as opposed to following the maze of trails, I came to the edge of the maze and went to find an employee. I reported the actor to the employee, saying he used way too much force to the point that my wrist actually hurt. The employee said he wasn't sure who was wearing the specific costume I described, but that he'd look into it. I thanked him, and then I looked at my phone. I had a missed call from James. I called him back to ask where the three of them were.
Hey
He said they
Ada.
tried finding me, then they gave up and
Hey
went to the haunted trail
Ada.
in the
Like my
woods.
mask?
I said I'd meet them and hung up. I walked over to the start of the trail, where they had the Halloween ambiance blasting through a bunch of speakers placed throughout. I stepped into the woods, feeling like I was the only one around besides my friends. I tried playing catch-up to my friends, when I stopped in my tracks after spotting him again, blocking the path. It was the guy in the coat and black mask. He didn't even give me time to react or say something. Right away, he started legit charging full speed at me. I turned right and ran into the woods, expecting to lose him easier. This time I called back, "I'm calling the police." I wasn't actually, but I thought that might get this guy to just leave me alone. I ran deeper into the woods until I didn't hear him chasing me anymore. Then I sat down on the root of a tree to catch my breath. I had time to think. And one of my thoughts was, did that guy really follow
Hey
me from
Samir,
the
I'm
corn
listening
maze
to
to
more
here?
Halloween stories
Then I heard footsteps approach.
as you probably read from the title of my new live stream. I'm doing some reacting to some more Halloween stories because Halloween's right around the corner.
And of course, at that exact moment, my iPhone started ringing. I silenced my phone, but now the footsteps had stopped. I pushed myself up off the root quietly and leaned to the side to get a view past the tree. It looked clear. I started to run back towards the path of the attraction and immediately spotted him to my right. I said to myself, fuck it. I stopped and told him I'm suing the place because of him. But he didn't stop running at me. He got to me and pushed me to the floor. I didn't expect it. I was once again in shock. I got back up as fast as I could before he could get on top of me and booked it. He chased me, but when I got back to the path towards the entrance of the attraction, he stopped and turned around. I went straight to the little front office shack and asked for a manager. Some older guy greeted me, and I told him about the guy who was chasing me and attacking me. The man said they didn't have any actors wearing that specific attire, so he called the police, and eventually I got my friends to meet me where I was. I stayed to describe the happening to the police when they showed up. I didn't have any marks to show them, but they still took a report and the place was closed for the night. We all went home after that. I haven't been to any haunted attractions ever since. The year I turned 13, my friend invited me and two other friends to stay at his house on Halloween night. He had a fairly large house outside of our town, and it was the perfect place to go trick-or-treating. We decided it would be cool to go now to get...
You can't do it at the same time.
You can.
No, because then the water won't run properly and it'll be cold.
sweets for a movie. So fast forward, we were near the end of our trick-or-treating, and at one house, a woman answered the door. She was tall and skinny with shoulder-length hair. Her house was disgusting. We could smell the odor of cigarettes from inside. She was quick to tell us that there were no more sweets left. However, she could go try to find something for us. After a couple minutes of waiting, she comes back with an old brown paper bag with old-looking candy inside. We kindly deny the bag and tell her we're getting picked up, so we better go. She grabs one of my friends and says, "No, please." But my friend pulls away from her, and then she quickly shuts the door. We knocked on a few more houses before hearing something going on near the parking lot of the housing complex. Someone exclaimed, "They took my child, they took her, they took her." It was her, that woman. And that was my friend's parents' car that she was banging on. She was throwing herself at the car and hitting it with her fists. A couple of neighbors came out due to the commotion. They seemed to know who she was. They apologized to us and said it was a big misunderstanding. We quickly got into the car, and my friend's mom started driving us out. But we don't get far before the woman jumps in front of the car, claiming one of us was her child. The neighbors once again pulled her away. It was later that night, however, when things truly began. We stayed up late like any teenagers do at sleepovers, and we watched some scary movies. Out of nowhere, the light turned on in the hall. We could see it under the closed door of the bedroom. We assumed it was my friend's parents who were about to come in to tell us to get some sleep. However, no one came in. I decided to have a peep out the door. Nothing at all. My friends joined me to see why the lights suddenly turned on. Out of nowhere, my friend says, "It's her." Through a large window facing the backyard, we see that woman standing there, looking in. However, the second she saw us stare at her, she ran away. Disturbed by this, we came back inside the bedroom and locked the door. We were obviously quite shaken up by this. Who is she? What does she want? We sat around for an hour, nervous, on high alert. However, we eventually did somehow manage to fall asleep. That morning, my friend's mom told us the situation at the housing complex shook her up so much that she thought she had seen that woman standing over her bed in the middle of the night. My friends and I never even told her we saw that woman at the house that night, which led us to wonder, what if, just maybe what if, that woman actually was inside the house that night?
The woman in the photograph. The first time I saw her,
Last year, Halloween was on a Wednesday. Because of that, I was home alone. My dad works nights, and my mom was staying with her sister because our parents weren't getting along at the time. My sister was away at college, so it was just me, left to provide for the trick-or-treaters. My dad bought a couple bags of Kit Kats and told me he expected them empty by the end of the night. I don't know why, but my dad takes Halloween seriously. I didn't get home from classes until around 6, so it was already dark and the kids were out in droves. The second I dropped my bag on the couch, the bell rang, and that went on for some hours. I was getting homework done later on in the night when the trick-or-treaters had mostly gone home. It was sometime past 9, though. I remember that much, and the doorbell rang once more. It was the first time in over half an hour. I went to open the door with a near-empty bowl of Kit Kats, expecting some kids, but instead it was just this lone guy, maybe 35 years old. He waved at me with a neutral expression on his face. I didn't open the storm door. I kind of just watched him, ready to shut the door on him. He stopped waving, then reached for the handle to the storm door and pulled it open. At that moment, I slammed the door shut in his face and locked it. I texted my family group chat that some old guy just tried opening the door. My dad joked that if he does it again, go outside and teach him a lesson. I decided that was it with opening the door for the night. I went back up to my room to finish my homework. Soon, I heard yelling coming from outside. I lost my patience and eventually got out to see what was going on. I slid open my window and looked down. There was that man again down below, looking up at my window, shouting at me. He was mainly yelling that he needed help finding his son. I didn't believe him for a second. I texted my family again. My dad just said, "Ignore it, he'll go away." I left my room and shut off the light so that he'd go away. Then I went to the basement, which had no windows. I hung out down there to do my work, and all was quiet for a while. Then, flick, the power went out. My initial thought, that man outside tinkered with the electric box outside of the house. I stayed in contact with my family the whole time. After a few minutes, I heard the floorboards creaking above my head. Someone, as if I couldn't guess who, was inside the house. My mom and dad and sister all texted me to call the cops. I stayed put in the basement as it was the safest place at this point. The cops were en route. All I had to do was wait. The basement door then opened. We stepped down the stairs, only halfway though. Even without power, a little bit of light from the upstairs poured into the basement, enough for me to see his legs. He was standing on the middle step of the staircase. And I swear, he just stood there for like 2 minutes. I heard him mumbling stuff. I won't even pretend I could understand any of it. After the longest, most painfully uncomfortable moment of my life, the man said into the basement, "I can see you." The whole time, his legs were actually facing me. Was he actually looking at me that whole time? Still, I didn't move there until there was a bang at the front door. Then he walked up the stairs, shut the door, and I heard creaking above again. I waited 20 seconds before running upstairs to the front door. By that time, it seemed the man had left my house because the cops couldn't find him, even with my help. Stupidly, I left the back door unlocked, so he simply let himself in. As for the power, he messed with the electric box outside, as I predicted. I don't know if he did this on Halloween intentionally, or if it was just a coincidence, but something was wrong with that man. He didn't belong out in the streets. Halloween night. I don't know what year it was, but it was probably like 4 years ago, and it was a Saturday.
So that's the end of today's live stream. So I'm ending it early. It's just that I have to go out somewhere and yeah. So see you all another time and yeah. Please remember to like, share, subscribe to my channel, and press the bell notification so you never miss any of my videos, and comment down below, and I'll see you all later. How long are we going to be there for anyway?